What happens to Jesus now? It is a very good question. One that I ask at this service each year. For all of us to ponder. We're here, today in church or watching online. Many of us, we showed up here or at another place of worship to celebrate Jesus arriving into the world. But, what now? What about today and tomorrow and the rest of the year? How will we take Jesus home with us, to work with us to the cafe or the pub or the gym? Where will Jesus be? Where will he live the rest of the year? Was Christmas just an experience bought as a present? Was Christmas just one night stand? And now we'll all go home and shut Jesus up in a box. Leave him in the dark of the loft so he doesn't get in the way of our daily lives. So what does happen to Jesus now? Shepherds watch and wise men wonder. Monarchs scorn and angels sing. Such a place as none would reckon. Host a holy helpless thing. Stabled beast and bypassed strangers. Watch a baby laid in hay. God surprises earth with heaven. Coming here on Christmas Day. Okay, we say, what is being asked of us this now? Ponder Mary's story. Mary was a teenager, literally a teenager. Most likely 14 or 15 years old. Then just as now teenagers are amazing because they stand on the edge. The edge between the imagination of childhood and the power of creating life as adults. Just like prophets. Teenagers often challenge us and challenge our choices. They are willing to risk new ideas, new looks, new visions. Teenagers have the great audacity to risk new things. You only have to look at our clothes, our language, our social customs to see that is still true today. So isn't it perfect? That God chose a teenager to take this risk. To bear the baby that would change everything. What is being asked of us today? In truth, God asks nothing of any of us. Nothing that is other than to open our hearts and receive the love God offers. It always astounds me how many people refuse that gift. Some people make a conscious choice, choosing apathy or skepticism or even hate over love. It always baffles me how many people get upset with someone or something in the church and walk away. Trust me, I know that this church community, and indeed any church community, is far from perfect. But church at its best is like a holy post-it note. To remind us weekly of what really matters. To remind us that we, each and every one of us, really matter to God. That is the truth. And we don't hear that message in many places in the world in the 21st century. Most of us are old enough to know that life is not all light. Much of it is ordinary. But there are also times and places of deep darkness. Our challenge is not to let the darkness overcome the light. Think of the time we spend criticizing, complaining, judging and worrying. Those seemingly harmless activities place extra weight on the darkness side of the scale. Do we try to place equal or more on the side of the scale that brings light and love and life into the world? Praise, joy, adoration, thanksgiving, laughter. This is the real battle of the scale. These are the true weights we need to watch. We are the shepherds standing in the field, doing our work. Taking care of our families and ourselves, finding it increasingly hard to pay the bills. Earning a living, budgeting our pensions, trying to stay warm and fed. And suddenly, as we stand there in the darkness, suddenly, our whole world is overpowered by a brilliant light. We see it, we can't miss it. And we are overwhelmed by its beauty and power. But then our fears kick into high gear. It is too wonderful to be true. Impossible. It can't last. We start to murmur. We shake our heads and say, this joy and light and goodness, it won't last. How hard it is to trust light and hope and possibility. What happens to Jesus now? Look to Mary. Look to the wise and risky and visionary teenager who says yes to God. She treasures the words of good news, of hope, of possibility. She holds on to them and ponders those tidings of great joy in her heart. There are absolutely no guarantees that her life will be easy. It certainly hasn't been an easy beginning for her. Pregnant, unwed, no room in to stay the inn. And we know there are horrors and heartbreak ahead. But Mary does not live today in fear of what may come. Mary does not live today as if the past was all her life can be. Mary lives in the present. Because that is where God is. She lives with the present right in front of her, and us. In this baby. What happens to Jesus now? That is your question and my question to ponder in our hearts. A place to ponder, to discuss. Alpha at the Living Room starting in January. Visit www.living-room.org.uk for more info and to sign up. While the human lot we ponder, lest our hopes and humour fray. God surprises earth with heaven. Coming here on Christmas Day.